On the screen, I have a piece of code that our friend Gandalf has written. Gandalf is going to help us learn logical operators, and he has done a little bit of a no-no. He has a piece of code that has compiled perfectly, but there is an issue, and his logic is incorrect. Now, in order to help Gandalf learn logical operators and fix his code, we are going to talk about the 3 beautiful logical operators that exist inside of TypeScript and JavaScript. Logical operators are used within if statements to help with Boolean checks and conditions. But the first logical operator that we are going to be taking a look at is the AND. This essentially means that 2 conditional checks or 2 Booleans need to be true in order for an if statement to execute. If they are not, then the else statement will execute. Now, what do I mean by that? We are looking at a program that is checking to see if a user is logged in and is subscribed. Now, if a user is logged in and this essentially means is your logical operator that says both of these values need to be true. So is logged in and is subscribed true, then we will go ahead and welcome you premium content. Welcome, brothers and sisters. If not, then you will have to go ahead and please log in or subscribe. So that's the first logical operator. The double ampersand or the double and symbols used inside of a condition to check 2 values. The next logical operator is our OR operator. Now, I like to call these ones the prison bars, but this essentially lets us check inside an if statement. If one thing is true or another thing is true, then we will go ahead and print what is inside the if statement. If none of the values are true, then we will go ahead and print what is inside the else statement because they both have failed. Both conditions have failed. So we drop down to here and we have a program that is checking, is it the weekend or is it a holiday? And if one of these is true, then guess what? We don't have to work today. Awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at the if statement. We have is weekend, and then we have our logical operator separating the 2 values or the 2 variables, and we have is holiday. So right now we have is holiday is true. That means that this program will go ahead and console log. No work today. Awesome. Now, if we set both of these to false, then we would technically have a work day and it would be time for work. So far, we have the double ands and the ors. The last logical operator we will be looking at, it is the exclamation point. Now, the exclamation point flips the Boolean value. So if the Boolean value that we are passing in, right now it is false, and we're checking to see is raining. So if we pass in false, then the exclamation point flips that variable, flips that value to become true. If this was true and we use our logical operator to flip it, then it would become false. So you're always doing the opposite of what is being passed in. So right now we can see that is raining is false, but guess what's going to happen? This if statement is actually going to execute inside here. And we're going to go ahead and console log, let's go outside, because we will pass false in here. It will get verted to true, and we'll go ahead and console log, let's go outside. So these are the 3 logical operators, and they are very useful when doing conditional checks and using if statements. They help you sandwich multiple variables or multiple Boolean checks inside of an if statement. Now you can have more than 2. Right now in these examples, I have is logged in and is subscribed, but you could even have a third value here, a third variable that is checking to see if the user has paid. And if they have paid, then you can add, additional values here and a third one. So you can keep going and you can add as many conditions as you want inside of these if statements. Now that we've talked about some of if statements and some of the logical operators, let's go ahead and jump back into Gandalf's code. So right now we have a code block that is essentially doing one thing, or Gandalf is going to use a program to help and check to see if a user is over the age of 18 and if they have an ID. Now we're going to use both of these conditions to allow them to enter the club. Now Gandalf's issue is that he has used a incorrect logical operator. He has used the OR operator. Now what ends up happening is that a user will be checked their age, and then they will also be checked as ID. So if only one of these conditions is true, then they get to pass. But in reality, we need to make sure a user has an ID. That way we can verify their age. So both of these conditions need to be true in order for it to pass. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to and we're going to kick up the code, and we're going to type npx tsx03, boom. And we can see that a user can pass because they have as ID is true and their number is 20. Now what happens if we go ahead and switch their ID to false and we run the program again? You shall not pass. So now we are using and because both of these conditions need to be true. Always remember, Keep learning, keep building. Thanks for listening.